Thank you for joining me. My name is Stephen, and this is my ethics assignment. My name is Stephen, and this is my ethics assignment. I'd like to welcome you to the analysis of the 1976 film All the President's Men, where we will explore scenes that displayed ethical lapses under the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics by journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. In a dedicated attempt to gather information regarding the suspicious burglary and the discovery of many other criminal cover-ups, Woodward and Bernstein dedicated themselves to finding their story. Throughout the movie, both characters are portrayed as the underdogs. For example, Bob Woodward, having only been working at the Washington Post for 9 months, and Carl Bernstein, portrayed as the competent yet unreliable reporter as he follows his gut. It can be perceived that both of these characters met their victory at the end of their journey due to what their persistent investigations led to, which was the multiple crimes that were being covered up in the Watergate scandal. However, in pursuit of this story, we see actions taken that can be perceived as a violation of the Code of Ethics. For example, avoid conflicts of interest, real or perceived. Disclose unavoidable conflicts. Throughout the investigation of these crimes, we see the characters playing the perceived chess game of Washington, D.C. A scratching of backs, if you will. This isn't bad if, in fact, the duo were able to disclose who they were getting information from. However, that wasn't always the case. Though we did not see what was written in the reports, it was heavily implied throughout the film that both Bernstein and Woodward, who were assigned to this story together, would not be disclosing who they got their information from. On numerous occasions, the informant to Woodward, known as Deep Throat, was guiding Woodward in his quest to uncover the story. Though the information was presented in a vague fashion, the informant, Deep Throat, still provided a numerous amount of accusations and provided incriminating circumstances that, while true, cannot be surmised as commentary from Deep Throat due to the delicate position of his connection to the incident and where his knowledge was based on. Moreover, there is the question of why Deep Throat was so invested in helping Woodward discover the corruption being covered. Could there have been something Deep Throat could gain from the breaking of the Watergate scandal? Or was he just a good Samaritan in a position of knowing what was going on and not being in a position to do anything about it? We won't know. But it does bring into question the reason why Deep Throat continued to help Woodward through the investigation when clearly he was in a all-knowing position. At least that is what is perceived after viewing the film. Additionally, Bernstein is known to be a charmer throughout this film, in large part due to just how charming Dustin Hoffman appears on camera. However, his push to get the scoop from his colleague, Kay Eddy, despite causing a conflict of interest, shows just how mercilessly he is about getting the scoop. This will bring us to our next point. Avoid pandering to lurid curiosity, even if others do. We see many examples of this throughout the film. Not only did Bernstein, in short, harass his colleague to try to get a favor done by her ex-fiancé, but he continually pandered people he was investigating. The film shows the reporters engaging in aggressive investigative tactics, which can be seen as intrusive. For example, showing up at people's homes despite being warned in many ways that they were being watched or threatened. Their resistance, in large part, due to those threats, or pursuing reluctant civilians for information. The worst example of this is seen when Bernstein persistently questions Judy Hobbick Miller, the bookkeeper. In addition to going to her home and using civil niceties to make his way inside, despite her clear resistance, he continued to push and push to get answers from her. Yes, ultimately he got the information he needed, despite her obvious discomfort and genuine worry and fear for her life. But at what cost, I ask? It questions whether or not the necessity to break a story is worth the physical and psychological turmoil he put Miller through, simply by conversing with him. The added stress of knowing that her job, credibility in Washington, but also her life were at stake, similar to the wife of another involved party who disappeared out of nowhere, seems to be something to take into consideration when watching this film and analyzing just how hard Bernstein pushed and pushed to get information that he needed. Adding insult to injury, both Bernstein and Woodward showed up to Miller's home a second time to question her further with a plan to trick her into giving them the right answer. Though it worked, one can perceive this as being unfair, especially being unfair to Miss Miller. This lapse will bring us to our final analysis. Balance the public's need for information against potential harm or discomfort. Pursuit of the news is not a license for arrogance or undue intrusiveness. As we have discussed both scenes involving Miller, it's evident just how much both Bernstein and Woodward use intrusiveness to seek the answer that would break this story. Though Woodward is portrayed as having more of an ethical consciousness, the first part of this film, at the climax of the story breaking, we can see how the developed relationship between both men led to a taint in Woodward's ethics. This film dramatized a great moment in journalistic history, where two reporters pursued a story that was much bigger than they thought and set the stage for the country and eventually the world. After viewing this film and looking through the code of ethics, it is hard to decipher where to draw the line from journalism and a pestering nuisance. We have seen so many times the damage that can result from the pressures of documenting public figures. We have also seen the result of uncovering something big, like the Watergate scandal. With that said, I implore all my listeners to report fairly and safely, and remember these ethics. Lights out.